this. I'm first joined now by Republican Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma, who sits on two very powerful committees in Congress, the Appropriations Committee and the Budget Committee, which cannot get work done if there is no such thing as some form of consensus and common ground. Congressman Cole, nice to see you, sir.
Good to be with you, Chuck.
Let me ask you this issue that Rich Lowry has brought up, which is you guys, meaning congressional Republicans, you need not just the president to sign bills, but you need his leadership. Right now you've got these town halls, and it seems to me it's a whole bunch of members out there unarmed because you got constituents upset about the repeal, but there's nothing you can talk about in the replacement. How much do you need direction from the White House?
I think you absolutely need direction and participation. I think that's probably coming in the next few weeks. We should see the draft plans for repeal and replace, and we should see tax reform as well. But, you know, frankly, that's not all that unusual. Obamacare, when President Obama showed up, was one piece of paper with 8 talking points. It was basically written in a legislative process. So I think we're seeing that again. But you're absolutely right. You're not going to be able to avoid making tough decisions. The Republican Party is going to want to put out a plan that the president will enthusiastically support and help us work through Congress.
You've been around this town a long time, both as a strategist and then as an elected official. It looks to me as if, at least on the legislative side of things, this is a bit slower of a start than you might expect when you have one-party control. You know, there hasn't been the big, you know, look, we're already past the date of when President Obama signed his big stimulus. So is there what do you make of in the big, of sort of where we are sequencing-wise?
Well, I don't actually consider the stimulus all that big a deal. They just added up every spending project they could think of. They didn't put it through committee. They didn't allow a single amendment on it, and they voted it up or down. And, you know, they would argue that we're at a moment of national crisis, and Congress can move very quickly in crisis. We're not in that kind of crisis today. And what Congress has focused on, and has gotten, frankly, not a lot of credit for, but I think should, is deregulatory activity, using the Congressional Review Act, and there's only a certain period of time you can do that. You know, we've already pushed 10 major repeals through. In March, you'll be seeing again the outlines of tax reform and repeal and replace on Obamacare. I would expect a major supplemental appropriations for defense. So we're moving into the time when major legislation begins to emerge. So I think we're on schedule.
What did you make of former Speaker John Boehner's, some might call it a truth bomb, when he said, Obamacare's not getting repealed, it's getting repaired?
Well, I think, you know, I have a lot of respect for John Boehner. He's my friend. He's my former speaker. And frankly, to a degree, he's right, because there are elements of Obamacare we will keep. You know, if you look at the bill, we're certainly going to keep the portion that allows people to stay on their, you know, parents' insurance till they're 26. We have said, and the president's committed, that we're going to continue to make sure that people with pre-existing conditions can afford and purchase health care. And finally, and I specialize in this stuff, there's something in there called the Indian Health Care Improvement Act that was separate and then added. That's staying intact as well. So if the point is there's going to be elements that you keep, that's absolutely true. But the replacements that we make will be major. It's not going to be tweaked. It's going to be substantially changed.
Let's talk about the other question I was raising at the start of the show, and that is, at least on the right, how would you define conservatism today? And who's in charge of defining what a conservative is today?
Well, I think the electorate defines, and the conservative movement defines. And look, I always have considered myself a traditional conservative. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-Second Amendment. I believe in low taxes, unlimited government, strong national defense, conservative social values. To me, that's still pretty much what a conservative is today. Now, that can cover a pretty wide variety of views on a range of issues, but I don't find the people I see at the Republican Party precinct meetings and conventions any different than the people I was seeing 10 years ago.
What would you say, though, when you look at the issue of economic nationalism and free market capitalism? It doesn't appear that those two ideas can live under the same political party.
Well, I think they absolutely can, but I also think there's always been a tension there. Look, I think, you know, in terms of I think Trump is not a traditional conservative or a traditional Republican. He is a nationalist. He is a populist. There's a considerable overlap there, but they're not exactly the same things. And that one of the reasons he carried some states we haven't been winning. A guy that can put together a message that brings you Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin for the first time in 28 and 34 years, is clearly saying something different and is reaching new groups. And in that process, you do see some shifts of emphasis. TPP was one he mentioned in his speech today. Yeah. Most Republicans traditionally would vote for free trade deals. He's made the case, and I think he's probably won the argument that, yeah, I'm for free trade, but I want to negotiate these, multilaterally, or, instead of, I'm going to negotiate country to country instead of multiple countries at one time. So there's no question there's some tactical changes.
Speaking of taxes, let me close with this question. It seems as if this White House very much likes to worry about political tactics with its political base this early still. Is there a point where do you think it's a bit too much, almost such a focus on making their 40% happy with the press bashing and all this nonsense, that they're sort of missing the middle?
Well, I don't know if they're missing the middle. Look, I look at it this way. We've had two presidents in a row, both very good men, very different men, both listed as a major goal that they would unite the country. And I think both of them would tell you today, look, I failed in that. The country was more divided at the end of my presidency than the beginning. I think Trump has made the decision that that's not his goal. He thinks these divisions predate him. They're there. They're deep. His deal is, I'm going to get things done. I'm going to accomplish things. And then I want you to make a judgment.
But is it worth making the divisions worse while you do it?
Look, I don't know that he's made the divisions worse. We had 66 members of Congress boycott a presidential inauguration. I've never seen anything like that. Probably happened since 1861. We had hundreds of thousands of people on all demonstrating against him when he was less than 24 hours into his presidency. Yeah. So the idea that he's unilaterally provoked this, I just don't see it that way. I think Democrats are still shocked that they lost. I understand that. I saw my own side, go through this. I think it was even more shocking for them because I think most of them woke up on Election Day and thought they were going to win, and they did win the popular vote. I think that's pretty tough to deal with, and it's led to conspiracy theories and a lot of anger. But I don't think the division is caused by Trump, and I don't think it's one-sided.